Hello, Fearless Gamers, and welcome to another podcast here on Fearless Games. I'm Matt the Vet, and today I'm joined by...
The Wildcard.
Welcome aboard.
What's up?
How's it going?
Not bad, not bad. How's it going?
Pretty good. I bought myself a new bookie.
Oh, is that like a cookie?
No, it's kind of like a cookie, but it's a book.
So it's not like a cookie at all.
It's totally like a cookie.
Can you eat?
You bake them.
You bake the book.
Yep. You bake them. You can enjoy it with a glass of milk.
What is this bookie on?
It is volumes 1 and 2 of the Badab War.
Oh, nice. Those are a good series of books for anybody who's a Space Marine fan that really wants to see some other chapters that aren't talked about that much, and who wants to get some rules for stuff.
And it's cheaper than buying the set separately,
which is weird.
Very weird.
But,
I think you might be. I think one of the differences is I don't think you get one of the extra add-in sheets that you do if you buy them separately. If you buy them together,
whatever.
But that's the biggest difference.
Yeah. So, I don't want to harp on Space Wolves all day, so I want to get out of the way quickly here.
Okay.
But the room.
We still haven't posted that last one.
Right. Well, it's going to seem like we're harping on it, but
yeah.
Okay. So here's the deal. They I don't know why all of a sudden people are referring to it as tactical dreadnought armor out of nowhere, but everybody refers to it as tactical dreadnought armor these days now. Terminator armor.
That is weird.
It is. I don't know why they're doing that, but now Space Wolves apparently it's not out. It's not what I haven't seen it firsthand, but they can deep strike now in Terminator armor.
Yes, from what I've been hearing
via teleportation. Now the thing is, everybody who's a big fan of Space Wolves are saying they can deep strike now, get over it, or deal with it. And the issue isn't the fact that we're deep striking now. The issue is the fluff that goes along with it. Now, the Space Wolves, the Fang, for example, has a very massive teleporter bank in it. All their ships have massive teleporter banks in it. That's how you teleport. So they use it. Their battle plan, which is the Codex, dictates, hey, how about a drop pod instead, which is probably the most reliable way of deep striking without a homer. So, I mean, when you think about it in comparison to other armies, the drop pod's where it's at for deep striking. But,
yeah.
So, now that's gone, and they can deep strike in Terminator armor. And my issue with that is I think you have the concept of making everything on the level playing field. Everything's similar, that's the same war gear. And I get that to an extent, but this is, I feel, a bad decision and lazy design, because you have fluff that basically says they prefer their feet on solid ground at all times, a.k.a. drop podding it. And if that fluff is still in the Codex, plus you have the ability to teleport, it's just a little weird.
It is.
That's the issue. And the only reason players are saying deal with it is because it's a positive thing.
For them.
For them. If there was a rule in place that was, made total sense, that came out of nowhere, that did something in a way that was detrimental, ever so slightly, the opposite people would be saying to deal with it, yes, but they would not be saying it themselves. So if your argument is deal with it, is not the best argument when it comes to game design. And that brings me to a question for you. Now, I don't really know of many other gaming systems that have something like Space Marines, where there's 4 to 5 different codices for the same type of army, essentially. But what's your thoughts on war gear being universally, the same across the board in relation to contradicting direct fluff?
I think that I'm not a big fan of it, because then it gets to the point of, then what's the point of playing one army over another? Right. Like for example, if everyone got a good example is I guess a good example is in the old Space Wolves Codex, you could essentially do a Terminator army, and it made you go, well, then what's the point of playing Dark Angels if Space Wolves can do the same thing as them, type of thing.
Yeah, that was an issue that came up, yeah.
Or Or another good example would be the Landspeeder Vengeance. What would be the point in playing Dark Angels if everyone had it?
I gotcha. See, I've had that feeling, but the whole Unbound thing kind of makes me that feeling of mine shaky a little bit, because now even the Space Marine Codex could go pure Terminator. But which is why one of my issues with it.
Which one person I know is afraid that because of Unbound, we're going to lose our ability to have a whole Deathwing army?
I don't think we'll ever lose that.
I don't think so, because that's like their bread and butter.
Yeah, if GW re-released the Dark Angels Codex, which they will eventually do, and they took out Deathwing or Ravenwing or both, that would be that would be an actual problem, because that's definitely part of their shtick. Their whole entire first companies, they don't fight in power armor; they're beneath that, or they're above that. It's beneath them, I should say. So they only fight Terminator armor. But when it comes to normalizing and universalizing war gear, I'm okay with it in the regard of rules, in terms of like Storm Shields should give the same vulnerability save across the board. Like, so when we had that issue when the Dark Angels, they had a slightly worse Storm Shield.
Yeah.
And that wasn't just, it was worse all around the board in terms of the Storm Shield is now. That's a problem. When a Cyclone missile launcher is not shooting the same capability-wise as another Cyclone missile launcher, then yes, normalize the war gear. But Terminator armor isn't teleporting by itself. That's an outside force. So that's where I don't like it, because, like you said, it kind of mushes it all together. I wasn't a big fan of putting the Black Templars in the Space Marine Codex. I felt it really kind of watered them down a lot. But I can kind of see why they did it, but I would have preferred them getting their own brand new codex.
The only thing I could see on that front with them was the only thing I could see for that is they looked at it and went, well, aside from the no librarians, what else do they have that makes them different? Well, and then they just said, well, then let's just put them in the regular codex.
Right. Well, the thing they had...
Hold on 1 second. I'm getting a phone call. Sorry about that. I got a phone call from someone in Florida, and they just started speaking Spanish as soon as I said hello.
That's always fun.
Yes. I have no idea what that was.
Nice.
But so yeah. So that's why I was thinking. Is like I think like for them it was one of these things where if they had you would say if they had more uniqueness to them, I would be more upset as to the fact that the Black Templar are now just a Space Marine Codex, but before I always sat there going, so they're Space Marines with swords.
Well, with that, there's actually, in their old Codex, was a great deal of diversity. First off, their Initiate and Neophyte thing, right? That mixed armor squad thing, which they still can do in this with the Space Marine thing. They don't, put it this way, they never ran tactical assault marine, stuff like that. It was the Initiates with the Neophytes, and then you had Sword Brethren. Mm-hmm. And in their old codex, they did not have Devastator squads, and they did not have Whirlwinds. They just flat out couldn't field them, because they were more of a Crusader aggressive army that pushes forward and shoots from the back. So they didn't have any Devastators or Whirlwinds at the time. Yeah, they brought about the Crusader, which is a cool Land Raider, yes, but then you had your Initiate squads. Then on top of that, you had Sword Brethren, which were not... Granted, the Sword Brethren needed a major update, because as the editions pushed forward, they got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Why would you ever field them? But at the time when they were out, brand new, it was an interesting concept. So they weren't just veterans. Yes, they're named for veterans if you want to water down that nutshell thing. But the Sword Brethren was the opportunity to really kind of play into uniqueness there. I mean, the Terminators are technically Sword Brethren Terminators. You had the Emperor's Champion, who luckily for them, they still have as just their own thing. It's not a universal thing. It's still just a Black Templar thing.
Yeah. Yeah, he could only be fielded in an army using the Black Templar rules.
So they still have that going on. And the thing about him is, and I think it's still the same, is that above a 750-point army, he was required. You could not field him. You had to field him.
Yeah.
They had a bigger emphasis on chaplains, which they could have explored in a codex. And they had no librarians, like you said, anti-psyker, and they had their vows, which could have been something they could have expanded upon a bit more so than what they have now. So, yes, and, you know, they very much felt Space Marine-y, as a Space Marine army should, but I felt there was definite stuff they could have done there, and part of my philosophy, my theory on this, my hypothesis is that the popularity wasn't there for them.
Possibly.
That's my...
Which is odd, because when I was getting back into 40K, and I was like, sell me one of them Dark Angel Codex, the guy behind the counter spent like 25 minutes trying to convince me that the Black Templar were the better army to pick.
Well, that was what, back in 4th edition or whatever?
Yep.
At the time, the Black Templar, in 4th edition, the Black Templar
were
strong.
They were. But he was sitting there going like, you got to play them. They're stronger. They're faster. They're better. They're totally better. You'll enjoy playing them more than the Dark Angels. And I went to him and I went, but they're not Dark Angels. So give me the Dark Angels Codex.
Exactly. But so that's why, like, look, because I've owned the Black Templar Codex and everything. I was looking through it, and there were some differences. And you see, this is what we're saying, and this is a good example, real quick. Black Templar fluff is hate the psyker. You know, don't trust the psyker, don't use the psyker. In a way, if they could have easily said, yeah, but, you know, field one, why don't you? You know, you're in the Space Marine Codex, you can field a librarian. Why not?
Yeah.
And thankfully, it specifically says you can't, so there's none of that cheesiness going on.
Yeah.
But that's it's a little bit different because it's a unit as opposed to a rule on a unit. But it's along the similar lines of saying, hey, Space Wolves, just teleport your Terminators. And that's my issue, is that they could have easily watered down the Black Templar for saying they really hate psychers, but you got to do what you got to do, and they didn't do that. Now, I'm guessing it's not a point upgrade for the Space Wolves, but one thing I would have really liked if the Space Wolves, you had to pay extra points so they can deep strike in. I would have liked that because
that would have been more interesting if it was you had to buy the ability.
Yeah, I wouldn't really mind that because in my mind's eye, how I view it as the Wolf Lord, like slapping the Terminator, going, get over it. You get on that teleport pad and you teleport right now. That's how I view it.
Yes, I could see that being a thing, because it's like one of those things, like in this one story I was reading, the one Space Marine is not a fan of teleporting because he hates the sensation and the funky taste it leaves in his mouth, but his Primarch was doing it, and he's like, well, now I gotta do it because he's doing it.
Exactly. And I could see it as a point cost thing to be something as simple as, here's a talisman, hold on to it, have a nice day, get over it. And go. So that's my issue with that. And you know what's also funny?
What?
On GW's website, they have Logan up for pre-order. And this the thing I found funny about it is the way they kind of describe him. In it's almost like the person in charge of giving you the because it's a very short description of this product, and it hardly makes it, just mentions the fact that his thing he rides called Storm Rider exists.
It's on a sled.
Yeah, but it's almost like the guy. It's the way I pictured it is that the person in charge of writing up the website descriptions didn't know this was happening, and then went, "You serious? This is a thing? You want me to sell this? All right." Because it doesn't say really anything about it.
Yeah, no, I went going in there trying to see if I can learn more about this stupid sled thing, and here we go. He goes, Logan Grimnar emphasizes the noble fury of his people. He is a figure of awe and the warrior king of the Space Wolves. Okay, not bad, not bad. A fearsome warrior with immense martial pride, Grimnar never backs down from a fight. Which, cool.
He's Grimnar. He's kind of cool.
He's kind of cool. drawn into battle on an ancient relic of the chapter known as Stormrider and armed with his Axe Morkia, an ancient artifact of immense power. Oh, okay, I knew about the axe.
The axe of Mordecai is cool. He's on this thing. It's got a name, whatever.
It's got a name. The old wolf inspires such unshakable loyalty that he has led the Sons of Rust into unimaginable terrors and emerged with victory grasped firmly in his claws. And that's it.
No more mention of the fact that Stormrider...
He's no mention that Stormrider's pulled by some wolves... That it's basically a land speeder, but just the cockpit.
Like, it's funny because it really doesn't mention much. Now, I hope his axe is initiative 1 for him, like every other axe.
Unwieldy.
Yeah, I hope it's doing that because if it's not, that's not cool. That's like blatantly not cool. Commander Dante should file an appeal because because what the heck?
So should Koron.
Who? Oh, Karn.
Koron the Betrayer.
Karn the Betrayer.
Karn, the Betrayer.
Yeah, and also,
be like, what the heck?
And also,
the crazy dude.
The cool chaplain guy with the wings with the axe as well from the Blood Angels.
Dante.
No, the other guy.
Oh, Astaroth the Grim.
Yeah, Astaroth the Grim should also file a complaint if this axe is initiative.
The council of UK.
The council
where axes were banned from using their initiative.
Yeah, so they should appeal the Council of Axes and say, hey, listen, this isn't fair. But what makes me worry is it says it's an ancient relic of the chapter known as Stormrider. What makes me worry is that GW tried to bully Forge World and saying, listen, when you print the Space Wolves, make this a thing. And I hope if Forge World goes, no, go away.
No, they're going to be like, please. They're like, no, where'd it come from? Russ wrote it. What? No, yes, but Grimnar barely fits on it. Russ wrote it!
And you know what?
They're going to be like, fine, and they'll put like the figurehead on his stand.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Speaking of that from the Forge World Horus Heresy books, some of these Primarchs get an awesome ride. Like, the Iron Warriors Primarch gets like a big Stormblade tank thing. That he just like, that's my personal transport. Deal with it.
Yep, he gets like a Baneblade.
Yeah, something like a super heavy tank he can ride. Somebody else gets a converted Thunderhawk. Rogel Dorn gets a converted Thunderhawk type thing, or some other type of flyer. And it's funny because there was no mention of this in the old fluff of them, which is fine. But what's funny is
like in Angels Exterminatus is when the Baneblade comes up, and I was like, huh. Okay, I didn't know he had his own little. And
it makes sense that the Primarch of the Siege Legion has the Stormblade. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense or I'm against it. I feel bad for Jahagati Khan.
Who's he? The biker dude.
Because he rides on top of a rhino. Like he's old. He had an old model made up, and his whole big shtick was that he basically stood Silver Surfer style on top of a rhino as it charged into battle, like the tank. The tank.
What? Is he car surf?
Yes. And everybody else is getting all this really cool super heavy stuff, and his whole shtick was I rode a rhino. So I feel kind of bad.
And yet his chapter rides bikes.
Yeah, well, I guess he figured bike's too small for me. I'll ride on top of this rhino. So he stands on it, Silver Surfer style. I don't know. I think he might have reins to hold on so he just doesn't fall off. But it's funny because that was like the only real before the Horus Heresy books when Forge World came out and the stuff from Black Library. Everybody was a Primarch. That was a Primarch. That's cool. And then he was a Primarch who rode a rhino, and that was the unique thing about him. But now everybody else is getting all this super heavy stuff. He's kind of like, oh.
But I got a rhino.
He's gonna have. You know what's gonna happen if they keep that? He's gonna have the most awesome rhino ever. It's gonna have 3 structure points. It's gonna be like armor 15. It's gonna be what? This is a rhino?
It's gonna be a super heavy rhino.
Yes, a super heavy rhino. So
it'll be like the little rhino that could.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
So now switching gears for a bit.
Yes.
There's 2 things that I want to mention. And first thing is do you hear about the little oopsie-daisy that happened with the Space Wolf Digital Codex?
Was it another deal of it came out before it came out?
No, a little different. It came out when it was supposed to come out, but it accidentally released a forced requisition for Grey Knights.
That's weird. It doesn't even make any sense.
It's all been over the news. The Digital Interactive Space Wolf Codex accidentally released a force requisition for the Grey Knights. The force requisition as regards to Grey Knights looks surprisingly bare, almost like this was close to the final version, but not quite. We had rumors this morning of 2 new vehicle kits that are coming, but I don't have any additional information on that yet. And for some of the options in there do not look complete. For example, there is no Land Raider entry, just listing it as a dedicated transport for Terminator squads. Other things to be noted beyond points are that rad grenades and psychotrip grenades are not in there. My guess is being designated as Inquisition-only items. Some new things: Bone Shard of Solar, the Fury of Deimos, Kriores of Sacrifice, the Soul Glaive, Domina Libra Demonica. These items look to be relics or artifacts. Some of these, like the Fury of Deimos, are available to Tech Marines and Librarians.
Well, it's about... Psybolt ammo, no listing for it on dedicated transports. Same goes for Psyflame. Also of note, there's no mention of psychic pilots or psych out or blind grenades. No Entrian brain mines, no warp stabilization fields. The Storm Raven does not have mind strike missiles in its entry. Right. This is basically it looked like it was an oopsie bare bones new Grey Knight Codex.
Yes.
Well,
which rumor is going to be a White Dwarf release.
That wouldn't make any sense for the Grey Knights, because that also incorporates the Inquisition, so that wouldn't really make too much.
Latest rumor, I don't know how true this is, but latest rumor is that they're losing the Inquisition.
Which would be fine, in all honesty, because while they do fight exclusively for the Ordo Malleus, they're not inquisitorial things. They are still a Space Marine chapter, technically.
They're just a chapter that works for them.
Yeah, I mean, under their thing, and also they police...
Who live on Jupiter.
Well, they live on a moon.
On Jupiter.
The moon. Titan.
On Jupiter.
Right, that orbits it. But the thing with the Grey Knights is, I wouldn't really take anything like that was accidentally released too much, on face value right now, especially because that was probably an accident, I would think.
Yeah,
but
it's definitely an accident.
Yeah, but
here's your Space Wolves. Enjoy your Grey Knights.
Yeah, but the thing I like about the Grey Knights, I've always liked the Grey Knights as a chapter, and people poke fun at them and whatnot, say they're like D&D paladins in armor, and in a way they kind of are. But the thing I always liked about the Grey Knights is that they were built and created for one sole purpose. All the Space Marine chapters, no other Space Marine chapter really is. All the Space Marine chapters may have been founded to look over the Ghoul Stars or whatever it is, but it's not. There's still a Space Marine chapter. It just happened to be, hey, this is your territory.
Yeah.
The Grey Knights were created in such a specific, unique way, all of them being Psychers, for example, to combat the warp. And they have full knowledge of the warp, and the fact that they never miss a beat to step right into its full breadth. Like, one of the novels I read for Grey Knights, which was really cool, it was basically a Grey Knight strike team orbiting this planet, completely demon-infested, level 10, oh my god, complete possession of everything, this is really bad.
Over 9,000.
Yeah, this is really bad. This is really bad, but we can't just blow up the planet just yet, we gotta do some stuff. And and a small strike team teleported right into the midst of a huge demon horde and fought their way through to complete the mission, without flinching a beat. So, I really like kind of that type of character that the Grey Knights, epitomize.
Possess?
Yeah, that's what they are. And I really like the fact that they are the purest of the pure stuff. So,
Puri McPurierson?
Yeah, so that's something I've always liked about them. And I really do enjoy their codex. My problem with the Grey Knights is their playstyle and my playstyle don't really get along.
The one thing is the Grey Knights helped me name my counts as Eldrad model.
Nice. How'd that happen?
I was playing in a game with Grey Knights, and one of my units, there was an avatar. There was an avatar, a Guardian squad with a model which for anyone who watched the Dornpour video, was for Danton's model that we used. It was that warlock, the warlock holding the sword down, going like, "You shall not pass!"
Like one of the only good warlock models, in my opinion.
It's not my favorite. My favorite one is the one where he's got the sword standing behind him and he's pointing the shuriken pistol forward. That's my favorite.
Right, but I mean, what I'm saying, it's one of the two good ones, because the other one has got like Doctor Strange hand going on, and it's like, what's going on here?
Doctor Strange
Spirit
hand.
Seer.
Oh, the Spirit Seer. He doesn't count because he's not a warlock.
He's basically a warlock turned Spirit Seer, but it's just, it looks so bad.
It's not. Yeah, I was very glad I didn't pick that model up. But at the same time, I would, because I need something to distinguish my Spirit Seer.
Yeah.
But anyways, neither here nor there. If I could, I'd steal that Bone Singer of yours. Either way, neither here nor there. With that, I was fighting. There was, I think, a group of purifiers. Were them? What?
I said those guys.
And he goes and he starts wiping everything off the table, and he schools this squad of guardians with everything, and the warlock's the only one who doesn't die. Goes through another round of shooting, the warlock lives. Then goes through an assault phase, and in the assault phase, he goes, brah, and the warlock goes, Krah, and he kills one dude. And there was, I think, 5 or 6 of them, so now they're down to 5. Then the 5 are like, let's get him and swipe at him. Do not kill him. They don't wound him, nothing. 3 combat rounds later, the warlock is still alive, and he's dropped the purifier squad down to 2.
Nice.
And I was just like, whoa, this is the little warlock that could. And so I decided that, you know what? He's now a frickin' Farseer, and I made him my Eldrad.
Nice. But, yeah, I would hope your Guardians would get wiped the floor by a Purifier squad. You know, Warlock holding on that long is improbable, but it happened, obviously. But the Guardians should have gotten their nose clobbered, which is appropriate.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, round 1 shooting, go! What did we kill? We killed half of them. Okay. Shooting 2, go! Just the Warlocks left. We can do this. Fire! Why isn't he dead? Okay, let's stab him to death.
Yeah. But, that, you know, you have that luck with your Eldar, though. Either stuff, like, you'll get clobbered and things that shouldn't live will live, and then stuff that you should do really well against, you don't. Like, I remember that one round when your Dire Avengers shot the super shooting storm attack on my one company master and didn't do a single wound.
Yeah.
and then he just charged forward and butchered them in close combat by himself.
And my little Wraith Lord that can't shoot.
Yes. But, I mean, one of my favorites...
Oh, he's guided!
Yes. One of my favorite... That was one of my favorite things. My lone company master standing there with the sword in the ground, like, hit me.
Hit me!
You missed. And then just cuts him in half. But,
yep, I remember that. That was painful.
Because I was like, oh, great, my company master's going to get destroyed because you're shooting like 45,000 shots at him.
Yep.
Nothing happened. But, that was...
Yes, for fearless gamers who don't know, back in the day, a 10-man squad of Dire Avengers could fire 30 shots.
Which is what happened to my one company master. Yep. Nothing. It was just the smoke cleared and nothing. So,
yep, nothing. Oh, wow.
So that was good. Now I have a question.
Yes.
You know, I find it... Because I've been thinking about this the other day in terms of sci-fi and stuff like that. People like to see science fiction stuff, of which, you know, 40K and other war games and shows and stuff are, of course, in there. But they like to see... People, I think, nowadays like to see the science fiction aspect of it, but as well as getting right the science facts, you know? The basic science facts that we know to be true. People like to see, you know, games get those right, or movies get those right, as well as then going further and giving us this fantastic science fiction. So, on that note, twofold thing. The idea of the multiverse, to get real nerdy here, is that there's multiple universes. So, did 40K kind of stumble across a possibility of the warp getting it right? You know what I mean? And just like warp travel is tearing through universes and tearing back out of it, because the whole idea of the warp is, they call it galaxy terms, because let's face it, they haven't left the galaxy, but it's basically mirrored and layered right on top of our own, but it's like its own galaxy, kind of like a parallel universe.
Yeah.
So, in a way, do you think 40K kind of stumbled across a possible truth with this whole string theory in the multiverse? Because I kind of have to say, you know what? As unintentional as this is, I think they're onto something. And going along with that, we see military history. We know from wars in the past. You know, we had World War I and World War II, and we saw that really showed the death of the big battleships and whatnot, and how it became just carriers and destroyers. So, you know, like the whole like lumbering battleships,
the ironclad.
Those whole things are dinosaurs. They're obsolete.
Yep.
We have tanks, and we're working on tank warfare and tank technology for the military, obviously. Now, considering that and looking at sci-fi games, of which 40K I'll put in there as well, and we have things like battle suits, and Titans are gigantic. They're kind of preposterously big, but
they're big to the point where they're kind of impractical.
Yeah, completely impractical. I can't see it. I can't see what I'm shooting at because I'm too gigantic. But the idea of the tank, do you think really, and Fearless Gamers included, would become an obsolete thing if you were to make a sci-fi game or play in a sci-fi game? Do you think it would be, especially that far in the future, where there is no need for a tank because we have suits and grab things and whatnot, if technology were to continue and not become the whole Dark Age don't trust it thing?
I don't think so, because as powerful as things can be and stuff like that, there's just always going to be that one bit of firepower that a vehicle will be able to handle and deliver much better than a dude.
Well, that's what I meant, like the Tau battle suit or something like a knight, but not that big. Like a dreadnought. You know?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about it the other day with BattleTech, right? BattleTech and MechWarrior, you have these mechs, and they're walking battleships essentially. Like they're awesome.
Yeah.
There's still tanks in the universe of BattleTech, which got me curious about it, because the tanks are also still structured in terms of classification like a mech. And the way that BattleTech, for those of you that don't know, does classification is by weight. So from basically up to 25 tons is considered light in a mech. Same thing with the tank, but mechs really don't go any lighter than 20. So 20 to 25 tons. If you get a 55-ton mech, you're I believe you're in the medium class still. 65 is heavy, 80 and above is an assault. And they have tanks in the same classification. So you got 100-ton tanks barreling around the battlefield, which is crazy. But even still, in BattleTech, because it's the name Battle Mech, they're the epitome of warfare in that universe. So while tanks do exist and tanks can be big, you would need a tank of a higher weight classification than if you had a light mech, you would need like a medium to heavy tank to really deal with it. Just because the mech outclasses the tank, and that's what got me thinking. Like, sometimes you have a really, 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 really big cannon. You got to put it on some treads so you can shoot stuff. You know, the German approach to warfare in World War II. Put it on a train. That type of deal.
Yep.
And then you have the idea of what if you can carry tank weaponry in a more mobilized platform. Maybe bipedal isn't the best way to go, but something gravitic or something like that, something like a Tau suit or a grav weapon platform like an Elder has. And I was thinking, would the idea of tanks being off the battlefield be a possibility, you think?
That I don't think so, because they can, because to a degree, like good example is like in 40K, they can have a dual function.
Yeah.
Is delivering firepower and being mobile cover.
True. And, I'm not going to get into the debate, but into the muddled waters that some people may be thinking of right now of tank versus APC versus mobile artillery. Because technically it's different classifications. That's way too complex to think about this, people. Let's just keep it as a tank. But yeah, no, I know what you mean. Also, as a transport, it is a good way to keep your troops out of harm's way. And my answer is I don't know, because I could see you call for both, and having things like dedicated personnel carriers be the most tank-like thing you have. But also, as cool as Titans are and Knights are, tanks are really imposing sights. It's just being a slab of metal turning a quarter and pointing his turret at you going, hey, guess what? And you go, uh-oh.
Kablam.
Yeah, like, it's
just like that. Kablam.
Kablam. And so I think as an imposing factor, it's hard to beat a tank in terms of on the ground. Yes, mechanized things like a big battle mech or a big Titan. Clearly, if you had a Warlord Titan stomping down my way and I had tanks, I'm still afraid because, well, the tank, you're just going to step on us like we're bugs. But it's, so that's what I was curious about, because I was thinking, really, outside of the Tyranids of macrofauna, those gigantic, super monstrous creature stuff, everything has a tank-like capacity to it. The ones you could say that does the least would be Necrons, because the Monolith isn't really like a tank.
No, that's a temple.
That's like a moving architecture, like you said, like a moving temple. And the other stuff aren't really tank-like at all either. They're more like grounded fighters who can't really fly. Yeah. But other than that, even the Eldar have their grav tanks, and they feel very tankish. So really, the only race, not counting Tyranids, because duh, they're alive, is that really doesn't feel like it has tanks at all would be Necrons, which, coincidentally enough, is the most technologically advanced race in 40K. Yep. But yeah, I guess moving temple trumps tank. Yeah. Just a little bit.
Indeed. Now, I have another thing that I wish to speak upon. And it is, as you probably heard as of late, there are a bunch of stuff that disappeared from the Forge World website. For the most part, the Kroot stuff is all gone. Yes. Let's see. The Aircast dudes on foot are gone. Though the Twin Link Fusion cannon turret is gone. And the drone turrets are gone. Right. And the land ship is gone.
The what?
The land ship. It's a fantasy vehicle that I know what you're talking about. Yep. And so people have been going, whoa, Forge World, what's with all this stuff, and why was there no warning? How dare you not tell us this stuff is going away, and all this other jazz. And, well, Forge World has made an official announcement letter about that. And it goes as follows. The Empire landship was removed from sales as some excessive repair work was needed for the master mold. When this was undertaken, it soon became apparent that this was not something that would be achievable in a reasonable amount of time and would require one or more of our sculptors to be taken off of other more pressing projects. The original sculptor also no longer works with us. As such, the model in its original form will not be returning, although it may produce another model to replace it at some point. Please accept our apologies for any inconvenience caused. With regards to our other items being removed from our website, it is sometimes for the same reason as above, but in other cases is basically we periodically review our ranges to see what the sales levels are like for them. When we add new items to our range, we have to find space for them to be stored in our warehouse. Regrettably, the available space is finite, and some kits that do not sell as well as others have to be removed from sale, sometimes on a temporary basis. Which is very true. There have been examples of, the Remeses class Starforge was taken off the website and then it came back. Yeah. Same with the Tyranid Superflyer. It was taken off the website and then came back. There is a possibility that some further examples of our Empire range may be removed, but at this point we do not this for sure. We also reserve the right to add or remove items for our range where we need to. We don't advertise when an item is about to be removed, as this can cause a rush of orders for the products, which cause complications with our stock records, resulting in some orders not being fulfilled. We will be producing more Warhammer models in the future, so please rest assured that we are not abandoning this range of our products.
Yes.
Now, a lot of people are ticked that they didn't tell us that these models were gone. Thoughts?
Listen, this is... My view is this. You have no right to be ticked about a model being taken out of anybody's range from any company if it was never even your thought process to buy to begin with. You know?
Yeah.
Like, why you ticked about it? If you really wanted it, you should have expressed interest in the past. And maybe you have. Maybe some of you have, and just the pricing was too much at the time. Understandably so. But the vast majority of people are just getting ticked because they change things without letting us know. And
yes,
it's their product to change as they will. They don't need to tell us. It doesn't really bother me too much. And part of that reasoning is, relatively recently, they sent out emails about the fact that, hey, Elysians are back. Deathcore Krieg is back. You know, we have bundled. We have an inventory of these guys yet again. Some of these models are back that were gone. So a lot of the time, or a decent amount of time, it's going to come back in one shape or capacity. Now, in terms of Warhammer Forge, to be honest, I usually forget it exists. I forget, that's one thing. And the other thing is, really, Forge World was, I don't know on its creation if it had anything fantasy in it to begin with. Originally, when I started, when Forge World popped up, the only thing you could buy was the Baneblade, the Shadow Sword, the Thunderhawk, and the Warhound. Right. Their name is Forge World, as in 40K stuff. Now they're taking on the task and doing a good job with fantasy stuff. Yep, their Chaos Demon dudes look so good. Yeah, and the Dreadmaw is something that looks cool as well. That looks very Tyranidy almost. It's really cool. Now, that being said, Forge World also used to offer necklaces and T-shirts, and they're kind of maybe bringing that back a little bit. But you know, they've changed throughout time, adding and removing stuff. And I mean, for example, if people are really worried, you're not going to lose anything really. The Imperial Space Marine is still for sale under the modeling supply section. Yep. So if anybody remembers that 6-inch tall Space Marine, you can still buy it. It's just not in the section of 40K because clearly you can't play with it. It's not a super heavy Marine. You know, it's not a super heavy. That's the next thing. A super heavy Space Marine. Don't start the Centurion. There's like 7 Space Marines inside of it that pilot it. Right. And remember, Forge World, at its core, yes, it basically offers you the entire Elysian and Deathcore Krieg range. Yes, it's basically the source for Horus Heresy stuff. But what it really is a supplemental, high-quality miniature store for you to take stuff and supplement your force to make it look a bit different. They, of course, are going to propagate that a bit by having these books and these rules and these stuff that come out. So you go, hey, I really like the Death Corps. Hey, look, army for them. Hey, look, I'm going to play them. But I don't personally see a problem with them not telling us. Because like they said, and you have to think about it on their aspect, these are good, high-quality resin cast models. And like they said with the Landship, resin cast molds break down over time. Over use and time, they break down and have to be refurbished and redone. Yep. And if you... Yes, I have experience with that with some of the terrain pieces that I used to make. Yeah. There would be these issues where that one little piece would rip off in one cast, and then that detail would slowly disappear. Yes, and everybody says, well, it's Forge World. Well, yes, Forge World has very good sculptors and probably has the top of the line, just like other resin companies do have the top of the line. They could probably stuff. Do like over 1,000 molds before they need to replace them. Yeah, so and now you have that maybe as the issue. If you announce, hey, we're taking it down, it's kind of like saying, it's kind of like a going out of business sale in a way. People are going to hound it. You know, they're not going to make a sale for it. If they announce it, now you got people going to be buying a product that could be flawed. Mm-hmm. And Forge World, like GW, has amazing customer service, and I think it's a right call instead of having all these callbacks. just removing the product.
Yes. One thing, like, I understand totally where they're coming from with that range. I feel like, it's totally understandable, and it's right. If anything, in my only personal feeling is probably not any better, but I think if anything, say if they remove a model set, let's just say for argument's sake, the Reaver Titan is gone tomorrow.
Right.
Okay? The Reaver Titan is gone, he's removed from the website, you no longer have the ability to buy him, then I think at least they should make some announcement, hey, just so everyone knows, this model's no longer available. That way, people are going, wait, what, where is it, and sending 50 million emails to them going, where is it, where is it, where is it, where is it?
Right, I mean, it's the case of it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
If you don't, yeah.
Because if they announce it, they can get an overflow of stuff, and especially if, let's say they have 10 Reaver Titans in stock still in their warehouse, but the mold is broken. They broke the mold.
Yep.
Ha ha! If that's the case, and then they make an announcement, it's gone, maybe people can call in and be, listen, do you have any left in stock? They can check their supplies and say, yes, you can still order it that way. So if you don't see something, it doesn't hurt to contact them directly and say, hey, listen, do you have any in your warehouse that I could purchase?
Like, I think what I don't mind them dropping it without warning us. I guess what I would like to know is I think I would prefer more, like, either way, it's whatever they do. I'll never hate Forge World. I love them. But I think there'd be less of these, what, if they remove the item, then, like, the next day or something go, hey, this model is taken off, and just say, it's not coming back, or it may be coming back.
Or just say it's gone and for the foreseeable future. And that
way people know what happened.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I still feel it's a bit of a, you're going to get the...
Oh, you're going to piss off people regardless.
That's better than giving us a warning, because in that 10 Reaver Titan situation, if, now 50 people ordered it roughly around the same time, now what do we do? Because the mold's broken,
In the range now, here's another question on that. In the issue with the Tau stuff, where that was removed because, they weren't selling, they have more orders for let's just say Eldar stuff, so they figure, well, the Eldar is right next to the Tau, let's just take off these things so we can put more Eldar stuff on the shelf. Mm-hmm. Do you think, now, they still have the mold, they still have everything, it's still a functional model. Do you think they should offer them as made to order?
I think...
As in, if you want this model, email us, and we'll work something out.
I think yes, but no, but yes in a different way. And by that I mean, I think there should be the ability to contact them directly about the model if the mold is still good, if they keep the mold, if it's worth reusing, like has it gotten to the point where it's kind of iffy, or if they have stock of it. I think there should be it's a situation where if you contact them directly, politely about it, then if they have the ability to make it for you and by that I mean in a cost-effective way, because maybe, for example, on a smaller model, maybe they can make 10 at a time. And it doesn't, and that's not really, making 10 to sell one isn't the best way to do things. But I think made to order is always a possibility with these specialty companies if you contact them. I don't think they should advertise it, because then that becomes abusing the system.
Sometimes, well, I know like the Titans and the Super things, those are made to order.
Yeah.
Like, you order it, then they make it, because the molds are only big enough to make one.
Right.
I think, if anything, this is just me, well, this could be the fact that I still want to buy BFG stuff, and from my understanding, they just said, oh, GW's stopping, let us stop. Mm-hmm. I think, if anything, maybe what would be cool is if they had a specialty email for model inquiry. So that way you could go, hey, where's this model? Is it available? And they can go, do you want one? Type of thing.
Right. Well,
that way they have a separate section for, general inquiry. Like, they have a rules email Then they have a customer service email. I think it would be neat if they just had a, model inquiry email.
It would
that
be cool.
way they could filter it out.
It would be cool. And let me just say, firstly, before I address that, the Aircast pilot is a useless model. There's nothing you can do with it.
It's like the Titan pilot, dude. What are you going to do with him? He has no rules out of the Titan.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I kind of like the way it looks. But, for example, Forge World events, they got a Chaos Dwarf Demon Smith, a Minotaur's Heavy Bolter dude, and a Navigator, all of which are usable. The Navigator could be your Sanctioned Psyker or whatever it is.
Yep, or he could be your Master of the Fleet.
Yeah, or, and the Minotaur's dude is clearly a Devastator Space Marine, whatever. And the Chaos Dwarf Demon Smith is a dude. I don't know that army, but he's a dude. You can use him. So the Aircast pilot, there's not, it's Fire Warrior, Battle Suits, and then Kroot and Vespid. There's no, and Ethereal. Maybe you could say he counts as your Ethereal with the pistol, but you can't even do that, it doesn't, he's really useless.
He serves no point.
So... There's that, and Tau fans don't. If you haven't checked out Forge's website in a while, they still have their battle suits. They still have they're still offering, the Manta. So you don't have to worry about them. They didn't just get rid of anybody's range in case if that's what anybody's worried about. But and really, what I'm looking at though right now is the Tau Aircast pilots are still up for sale.
Oh, I read something that said they were not.
Yeah, they're up in accessories. So is the Tau Tank Commander and Tau Seeker missiles.
Yeah.
But could it be that that will be taken down in the future?
Oh, there they are.
It's a possibility. And I don't know, what was the other thing they said the Tau took down from the Tau?
The gun pod.
Which gun pod?
One of the burst cannon one.
For drones?
No, the Tau drone sentry turret with burst cannons, I believe, was removed. Because they still have the missiles and they still have the plasma rifles and the twin-linked
Fusion.
The twin-link fusion gun turret was gone.
Now, so first off, always double-check Forge's website. It may be down, or they may have no ability of getting it to you or making it, and if you order it, they'll let you know, which is just the way it works with an online thing like that sometimes. Now, as far as inquiries into making things to order, the first thing we got to keep in mind is that these companies don't have unlimited space, like Forge World had said.
Yep.
And in the case of, let's use BFG as an example, because it's a good one. I personally, and many of us probably do not know the exact size and scope of what Forge World has to work with in terms of a warehouse for making things and storing things. But you all be pretty surprised how small these places tend to be, even for big companies. You'll have a warehouse like a company that is a leader in, let's say, making bicycle parts, right? But the warehouse is only the size of like a 3-car garage, and that includes making the parts and storing them. So there is the issue of, were those molds good? Did they get rid of the molds due to space issues? There's always that. So
Oh, I totally, it's one of these things where I get it, I'm like, oh yeah, no problem, I have what I have, I'm happy, but I just wish I could buy more.
Oh yeah, no, I understand that completely. But
also, like what you were saying before, when they get rid of these things, and one person actually brought up on one of these forums, this is just like the BFG thing, blah, 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 it was not fair. It's like, how much of, the only person you have to blame is yourself.
Right.
For not buying it sooner. Like, a good example is there were 3 things that I purchased that I wanted to buy from BFG. One was a harvester ship, one was a set of jackals, and a strike cruiser, 4, and another Ramesses-class Star Fort, because I want to make the rock.
Yeah.
The Ramesses-class Star Fort, I was like, I'll wait till my tax return time. That way I can have the money, and I'll just buy Ramesses-class Star Fort for that. The other stuff, I went, I don't need it right away. I'll order it through a game store. And the problem is GW, sometimes for those specialty things, good luck getting a game store to get them for you, because GW sits there and goes, how cute, someone wants it.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, it was my own fault for not going directly to GW to order that stuff, and it was also my own fault for waiting so long to rebuy the Ramesses-class Star Fort. It wasn't Forge World's fault, it wasn't GW's fault. the only person you can blame in these types of situations is yourself for not buying it sooner.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, exactly. Now, of course, again, there's the idea of, well, if we had some type of... But, like I said earlier, you can't have warnings for absolutely everything. Even if there was a warning, what good would it do if you really don't care? If you're just a whistleblower, then you're part of the problem. Frankly, that's all I have to say, is because if you're just going to blow whistles saying, well, they never told us this, and War Machine never said this, or whatever it is in general, why?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you're worried about a product, getting the product you want, when you can afford it, get it. Don't wait.
And the funny thing is a lot of these people who complain about how it's unfair that they didn't say anything, never once in their podcast even say that they were planning on buying it.
Right. Like,
they never say, I wanted one of those. It's just not fair. They should have told us. It's like, did you even really want this model?
Right.
Honestly, did you really want this model?
Yeah, and again, I'm sure some people did, but I've always, it's not just with miniature stuff, it's with anything. Like for example, automotively, when Ford discontinued the Boss 302 Mustang, people got upset about it, but Ford always said it was going to be a temporary sale, and it sold it for a few years. They wanted it to be a one model year thing, and turned to like a 3 model year thing or whatever. It always was the sense. Now, you got people complaining because they wanted it, and now they couldn't afford it or whatever. They're working on trying to get it, the ability to get it, and couldn't. But even more people than that were complaining, so you always have the issue of there's a core people who have I want to say a right to complain.
A genuine interest
and the right to complain a bit about it. And then you have the people, and the Mustang is not the best example because it was announced from the beginning it's temporary, but still.
Yeah.
And then you have the people who circle that who are just complaining because, hey, you're changing things and I don't like change.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
A funny thing with that is I have the Grey Knight Strike Cruiser, and I bought one of those, and I said, I'm going to buy this in a Remeses class Starforge, and I went, you know what? The Grey Knights thing did go down for a little bit. Let me buy it now. And that used to be my thing. I used to buy things immediately because it was like, I don't know how long this is going to be up type of thing.
Yeah.
To the point where I went, you know what? If I really want it, I'll buy it now.
Yeah.
And if for any reason I miss out, then my own fault. Like, same with the Bone Singer. There was one guy at Grimm who said, I've got a couple. If, let me know if you want one. And I always went, oh, yeah, you know what, and now I don't have one. And I'm like, you know what? It's my own fault. I should have said, sell me one, and I didn't.
All right, and going along with that, not just in 40K, my example is with Battletech stuff. Yes, I have it, but my point is with that is Battletech went from being pretty big and popular to a niche game.
Yes.
And, a game that I have and I own stuff for, and if it were to cease to exist tomorrow, I don't think I have no right to complain. I could have learned it or tried to get involved with a gaming group sooner. But my point is that's a small game in and of itself. Now you have something big like 40K in this example, or even War Machine. And if you're a fan of a really niche faction or group, something that really is, in terms of sales, the bottom of the list, which you could say is the least successful faction of those groups. And if the company in response did something to change that group, either change it innately or kind of sweep it to the side or encapsulate it into something else, that would agitate players. But it's an unfortunate fact when it comes to factions. You have winners and losers. You have the most popular and the least popular. And if you are a fan of the least popular group because you have a genuine interest in them, then unfortunately you're gonna be in a situation where stuff's gonna happen to upset you.
The Stark Lord and the Sisters of Battle are a very good example.
Right. But, I mean...
He loves them, but unfortunately, it's the one group that GW doesn't like, and most people don't buy.
Well, it's not even that GW doesn't like him. It's just that I think they're battling Dark Eldar for least sales. I mean...
Yeah, it is true, sadly.
And that's kind of how it's just these factions fall. And it's not like the Sisters plummeted from grace. They've always been more of a niche thing. Same thing with the Dark Eldar. I don't know about War Machine too much, but some of those factions seem a bit more you have to really be a fan of them to get into them, which is what...
The only one so far I found is the elf one. That seems to be like the Dark Eldar and the sisters of that army, because I find someone playing every other force but them.
That's funny, because they kind of exploded onto the scene and they kind of got quiet. But
yeah, well, because everyone was like, I thought these guys were all dead. Because, like, there was a fluff that said this one Crix dude killed them all.
Right.
It's like, weren't they all... And I think another person, in another person's fluff, they went, she's the last of her kind.
Well, there you go. But like, there's always, when you have groups like that, and it even falls into Battletech, they have different factions in Battletech. Like, I'm a clanner. And they...
Clans.
Of Battletech, and I like the Smoke Jaguar. They weren't unpopular, but they were slated in the story to get killed off, essentially. Not really something I wanted to see, but hey. But as far as Inner Sphere, which is like the opposite side, the good guys, you could say, I really like the Eridani Light Horses. But because of apparently like actual lawsuits regarding that unit for whatever reason, they kind of stopped using them. But it was a small niche thing to begin with. It wasn't as big as the Draconis Combine or as big as the House Steiner. It was smaller. And you have to say, every game which has factions has the smallest dudes in it. You know, the group that has the least popularity.
There's always going to be one group that no one really cares about.
Right, except for the people who are fans of it. But that means that one group is going to be the easiest for a company to either push to the wayside or change. And it's going to bother you. It's going to. And that's the unfortunate effect of liking the least popular group, is that it's going to get infected with change. And that in and of itself, no matter what company you're looking at, no matter what is going to go on, you can't stop. I mean, that's just the way it's going to work. And also by design, going to the specialist games thing, by design the games were set up to be taken away. They were called specialist games. They weren't called mainstream games. They were called specialist. The games that people who are diehard fans of a situation or really enjoy a certain way of play style will play. But that inherently sets itself up to be a limited thing, because eventually it's not going to pay to have...
It's going to go away.
You know, it's not going to pay to have stockpiles and to have the equipment and to make the product. And that's what Forge World is saying with certain parts of the models, because some of Forge World's models are spot on. Some of the Forge World models are great, and they probably sell really well. And then you have some of the Forge World models who you go, you know what? No. No. It's just, just stop. But you even have it with the Space Marine stuff, because I'm sure that's probably somebody's big thing, is, the Space Marines get everything. Well, they're the most popular.
Yes, that is a very popular thing. Space Marines get everything. Well, it's hard for them not to get everything when they're the ones that are selling.
Yeah, when they're selling, that's how it goes. They're selling. You can't stop it. But and I'm going to say it, the most popular army in 40K.
It is.
Helps that out. But when I look at some of their stuff, sometimes I'm going, I don't know about the look of certain things. And like the Mark, they make an ironclad dreadnought body.
Yep.
I think it looks cool, but we have an ironclad already. You know, like the GW ironclad does just fine. So I can't imagine that sells particularly well. Also, who fills ironclads? I'm not saying nobody does, but by and large, people fill dreadnoughts, not the ironclads.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. The Imperial Navy, you got the flyers. Now, they have cool flyers, but who purchases the Arvis lighter? Honestly. Like...
The Imperial Navy's
Arvis lighter. Who purchases that? Nobody. That's who. If you own one,
that is the silliest looking plane.
If you own one, Fearless Gamers, I want to know in the comment section that you do, and I want to know what purpose it serves in your force. Because I remember the rules for these guys. The rules for the Arvis lighter. And it was basically, we fly around, we carry things. Yeah. That's basically it. Like...
It's able to transport small infantry squads and boarding parties.
Right. Is it even space capable? I think it is. Yeah, it is.
This air starter cargo shuttle commonly used to transfer supplies and small personnel units ship to ship.
That's or
from fleet position to planetary installations. While unarmed, the Avius is capable of standing in as an assault boat, able to transport small infantry squads or boarding parties.
Right. See, right there, this is like the equivalent if they made a model of a tow truck for 40K. It could stand in as something to pull all your artillery around, but it's a tow truck. It's...
Yep. It's no Marauder bomber or destroyer or a Thunderbolt or even the Vulture, which I hear is really, really good.
I heard it kind of petered out but came back.
I heard the Vulture has some really nasty weaponry on it that are just nasty.
Yeah, but who purchases that? And another thing, people forget GW, and I own this, and I'm glad I do. Used to make a chapel ruin corner piece that had fake stained glass window in it. It was a ruin thing, but it was fully painted. You could purchase from GW.
Yep.
I own one. I'm glad I do because they don't make it anymore. There was no warning. They just took it down. It really depends on who you're striking a core with. That's a terrain piece. Doesn't really strike a core with anybody. You mess with a Tau thing. Tau are pretty popular. They're gonna take notice, but it's just the way the dice roll.
And also it was Kroot. Who here honestly tells me that they still field Kroot?
Some people do. But who here honestly can say they play Kroot Mercenary? That was a 4th edition PDF thing from GW, and that's all it ever was.
Yep.
And that's the only time it was ever anything decently cool. And even then, it was that's cool, I'll heavy flame you guys to death, or something. It was
Yeah,
it's
they weren't... Kroot were not the backbone of the Tau army.
No, I mean, it's called the Tau Codex for a reason.
Yeah.
It's not called the Kroot and Tau game, it's called the Tau Codex. But, and that makes me curious of people in War Machine, what is you have the Convergence of Cyrus. They came out and are a thing now, right?
Yep, they are a full faction.
What was the War Machine, the one with the blah blah blah. The one with the...
Talk about the mercenary unit?
That thing, yeah, but that can play by itself. What's that thing? I always forget their name.
I forget. I don't pay attention to the mercenaries, sadly, at all.
Yeah, but they're
that was the thing is in War Machine, you've got all the army pieces, like the dwarfs. The dwarfs are mercenaries, but they have their own special warcaster and their own units. So if you want, you can just field all dwarfs, and they have jacks, and they go most commonly used by dwarfs. And you're like, okay, so that's a particular jack they would carry. This was the same deal.
Yeah,
I haven't seen anything about them since they were released.
I don't know. That's my question. Were they even released yet? Because I heard about them when they were announced.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything, as no one's talked about them on the forums. I have no clue.
Here's my query, because War Machine, in terms of hierarchy of games, I would say it's 40K or GW product, and then Privateer Press.
Yes, and then Fantasy Flight.
In so far as what they have, but and then Malifaux is somewhere. Which I can't.
And Infinity.
Yeah, Infinity is somewhere in there too. I would put Infinity above Malifaux. I just hate Malifaux. I just think it looks weird. I think it looks weird, and I don't understand it when I was trying to understand it. I was just like, this, what? What is this? It just didn't make any sense to me. Oh, here we go. It looks like they are out, kind of. The Exulon Thekos. The Cephalix. That's the name.
Yep.
The Cephalix guys, right?
Yep.
But anyways, the thing I never quite understood with War Machine is you have these factions, and then you have the mercenary stuff, but every person I've heard who has really played War Machine in any, you could say heavily, that was their game, they always say, don't even bother with mercenaries.
The issue with mercenaries is the army is actually, the thing was mercenaries was built originally to be add-ins to other armies. And they would have their thing, like, this unit won't work with this army, or this army. This unit will only work with this army or that army. But they made them where they could be all used as an army. But since they were primarily designed as an army that was supposed to be added on to other armies, they don't really do well by themselves.
See, yeah, and like this would be your Dark Eldar Sisters of Battle. I mean, nobody wants to play them. And,
and if anyone ever does, it's always with another faction.
Right. Like, the Cephalix was their chance to make a, how many, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 factions right now in War Machine?
Roughly.
They could have made a 7th faction out of the Cephalix. But they didn't, and I think that hurts them, because what otherwise was a very interesting idea that caught my interest, and I have no interest in War Machine. I probably wasn't going to play it anyway, but it caught my interest. Is now a mercenary thing. It's like it's automatically put in the situation of don't even worry about it.
Yep. But I think their whole gist was to try and boost the mercenary sales by making another mercenary unit that could function a little better, and it could work well with other mercenary units. So I think the hope was it's a mercenary unit that will make the mercenary army more viable, and it just didn't go over because people will be like, well, then I'd have to play mercenaries.
And now, here's my question with that, because I'm sure there's War Machine players out there, and maybe they can chime in as well. The Colossals, right?
Yes, those things are beasts.
They're cool,
especially the Signar one.
They're cool, but what is a battle engine?
A battle engine is you remember what you guys got me for my birthday for the War Machine?
Vaguely, but it's just
that little walking ball.
Oh, yeah, but I know.
That's a battle engine.
I don't mean literally what. I mean, like, what? Like, okay, you have
a battle engine. From my understanding, it's a machine that's piloted by a dude. It's not a jack.
Okay, so what? And a colossal is a jack.
A colossal is basically what it is. Is a colossal was the original jack. Like before before War Machine happened, its history. Colossals existed. They were these giant war machines, and then they turned into the baby jack. And these new Colossals are the upgraded version of those original dudes.
Gotcha. So this is their Horus Heresy stuff. Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, essentially, it's them looking at their heresy and going, you know what? We can improve that.
Okay.
And here's Heresy Mark II.
But like, my question with that is, because I've seen these things around, really the only one I really know of in any detail is the Signar one, because it looks like a walking Big Daddy.
It's the best Colossal from what I'm hearing, and I'm like, I so want one. Well, no, it counts as a jack.
What, the battle engine does?
No, the Colossal.
I'm talking about the battle engine.
Oh, the battle engine. Oh, that one's pretty nasty, too.
Yeah, but like, because it's one of the cool looking ones, because the Protector of Menoth one looks kind of lame, to be honest. And but my question is, when is it gonna basically be the same size as a 40K game? Because this is a whole new section of stuff to put. Like, battle engines didn't exist before these guys.
Yes, right now it already is kind of their size. It's just that the point system is different.
Well, I don't mean point wise. I mean my smallest army I played was 25 models strong.
Yeah.
Like, and typically Space Marine is around 30 to 40, depending upon what you're playing.
Yeah.
So when are we going to get to the size of those model unit counts? Are we there already with War Machine? Because the whole thing, when I got into 40K, people used to tell me you should play War Machine. It's so much cheaper, and it's so much smaller of a game to play. And I'm looking at the prices for these things. And granted, the Colossal is a Colossal, and the battle and stuff like that. But I'm looking at prices that are higher than Land Raiders. And, like, the Colossal is basically the same price as a Knight.
The cost-wise is it's a little weird because, like you said, like when I got into it, I was told, oh, you got a 25 points, that's a starter set, you're good. And I'm like, okay, so I got 25 points. I'm like, hey, here I am, and I'm playing. And then I was playing, and then people are like, you should really get this army up to 50 points. Then you're going to get people to play with you. You need to get at least 50 points out of your army. Okay. Get up to 50. Oh, guys, you should really be going up to 80 because that's what we're playing now is 80-point games. So it's like, I guess you could say it's deceptively cheap because, yes, if you could just find a group of people that only play starter-size armies, it's ridiculously cheap. But it's hard to find due to A, want to play that, and B, are all they do is play that. Because, like, I go to Grim and I go, hey, guys, who wants to do 25 points? One person's like, I'll do 25 points, and then they'll be like, oh, man, it's only 25 points. What could I use? And they're like, oh, dude, why aren't you running this? It's like, dude, it's only 25 points. He's only got 25 points. I really can't use any of this kind of cool stuff. And one person has pointed out one of War Machine's flaws, and I can agree to a point. Don't get me wrong. I like War Machine. The only reason I don't play right now, just I want to go on record because some people who do listen to this are like, well, I never see you play. I don't have a way to safely transport my models right now. I've tried it. I always wound up with half the army broken. So I'm like, you know what? Let me wait until I get a bag, and then I'll play this more actively. But what one person described it, and I kind of can agree, War Machine's a game where when they release a new thing, if you're not playing the new thing, you're losing.
Yes, I can definitely see that.
And that's its biggest flaw.
Even as a player, I can see that. Now, here's my issue with...
Even like, a good example is I have this second level Nemo. And that version of Nemo is, like, there's another version of him. Every time I pop him out, everyone always goes, why aren't you playing the new version? And that's, I think, its biggest flaw right now.
I think that's part of its biggest flaw, and I think the other... Here's my problem with War Machine as a whole. I've already said before that I think it'll make a better real-time game than, like, video game than for me personally, to be really actively interested in it. But, firstly is, alright, so you want to play Signar. Alright? Well, your Signar army is going to look like every other person's Signar army. The blue, the white,
yes.
The white. Like, there's no sub-faction in Signar that maybe is green and white, or blue, or like white, or even painting it inverse gives you some weird looks from people. Like, the one thing that I like of 40K a lot is that, hey, you want to play Space Marines? Well, here's 1,000 chapters to choose from. You know, like, oh, you don't like any of these? Make up your own thing. It's cool, guys. Like. I'd like that as far as, because now you get to play against things that look different. You could be Space Marine versus Space Marine all day long. And the theory of it is you could play against Ultramarines, Space Wolves, Rainbow Warriors. Yes, they're a real thing.
Yep. Yeah, Burst Pointy Stick.
Yeah, Burst Pointy Stick even. Angry Marines, if people want to do that. You can play against all of those. Official and unofficial things. And a War Machine is like, well, I got Signar. What do you got, Signar? Let's just go get a beer. It's kind of like it looks the same, type of deal.
One of the things that I like about War Machine over 40K is the tactical side. I feel tactics are a bigger point in the game because everything depends on everything else in the army.
See, I disagree with that. I think 40K has plenty of tactical going on, and for me, as an outsider viewing War Machine, I see it less as tactics and more as combo memorization to out-combo your combo. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause everybody's got, like, the limit break they're going on now with their epic dudes, and everybody's got to know the metagame of everybody else. I feel it's less tactic of, like, miniature tactics and more card game tactica, which is know how to counter what's happening, know the metagame, and know your combo. That's how it feels when I see it being played, because yes, things gel very nicely in War Machine, just like they do in Infinity and like in every other game. They have a good gel going on. But for me, it feels less miniature tactics and more, like I said, the collectible card game tactic of, all right, I have red-blue control. I got to know the combos I play. Oh, I'm playing up against red-green Weenie or red-green Sly. I got to know what they're going to do and how I can best go around that in terms of comboing. And then I gotta know when to spend my limit break versus when they spend their limit, whatever they call it. I call it limit break. But
feat.
Yeah, you gotta know when to do your super awesome feat to do it correctly versus when they try to make it so when they do their super awesome feat. It just feels more like the one upper. Like, it feels like the tactic is one upping, and it just feels less. It just feels a little bit less fluid to me personally. Because that's one of the reasons why I'm not that good at card games. Is like, this is not fluid. This is very much and I never know the metagame because who has time for that? Ain't nobody got time for that. But
except for the Stark Lord.
Right now,
he finds time, though he claims he never has time.
Yeah, and then even still, he doesn't really know the metagame. The metagame is this thing that people think they know it, but it's really more of a guessing game. But my issue also is, okay, let's say I want to play Khador. Let's just say. All right,
okay.
I got to take some units. Oh, my God, look at all these choices. I got to take a Jack. Oh, my God, look at all these choices. There's only, like, 3 are worth taking, apparently. So it's like, why make, like, I'm going to, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like, over a dozen Jacks if only 2 are worth taking? You know, like, why even have the option?
The one thing with that is that is very dependent, I find, on the caster and who you talk to. Like, a good example is I have Stormblades. So the natural choice for my army would be the Stormclad, because the Stormclad has bonuses when the Stormblades are around. And the version of Nemo I have has special powers that particularly affect the Stormblade. Whereas if I had Striker, I'd probably do better with a Defender, because his abilities work better with a Defender type of thing.
You see, I think that right there...
And it's just that issue is there are some casters people think are worthless, thus they say these Jacks are worthless, because they're only good when they're with that caster.
And I think that inherently just touched upon my biggest issue of War Machine, is that, you know, again, it feels like if I'm building Red Sly, well, I'm not going to take a creature that costs over, like, 5 mana for red. That's ridiculously unheard of to do that. If I'm going to play Black Suicide, I better take the fast, speedy creatures. Who cares if it damages me? You know, if I'm going to play Blue-White Control, why on earth am I going to take White Weenie creatures? You know, I'm going to take this stuff for control.
Yeah.
And that's card gaming. The thing I like about wargaming, which seems to be more of a, you know, I guess, I don't know, but I don't think Infinity falls into the same trapping as War Machine does quite as much. But like you said, it's like you took Storm. There was a lot of Storm words in there, so I don't remember which one was which.
Yes, Stormblade.
You took the Stormblade guys, and they gel well with the other Storm guys, and they're going to have a big Stormy party. But it's just like, I'd rather be able to... I like games where in a war game sense, where I can pick the HQ, maybe it has innate bonuses. It's like, we'll take Belial as an example. Terminator troops. Well, that's the whole point that I want to take Belial. But you don't have to take Belial. You don't have to do Deathwing. You can still feel Belial and not feel like you wasted your points. Like, I don't know anything about... I'm going to just pick names. I know nothing about War Machine Fearless Gamer, so I'm going to pick names real quick. And I have Khador up for whatever reason, even though I would never play them if I ever was doing this. Okay, the Manhunter. You know, Manhunter and Beast on 9. Maybe I like those two things and I want to play them, but they don't work well together. So why would nobody ever does? And you're basically setting yourself up for losing. But if I really like the Centurions and the Space Marine Army and I want to play them in conjunction with Devastators, so I have a lot of heavy firepower, it still works. They might not be the best things to gel together, but you can make it work well for you. And for me, War Machine feels like if you don't take the exact things that flow the same direction, well, your army is going to just waddle around. And I only ever see, like you mentioned in Signar, it's that dude and that dude, because I forget their names already, Striker and Nemo. No, but I've never seen anybody feel anybody else.
Yeah, I very rarely see Haley or the other dudes being used.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other dudes.
Yep.
So, like, it just seems like, I wonder, in War Machine's record of stuff, if Nemo and the other guy, Striker, I always forget one of their names. If Nemo and Striker are the guys that basically, let's say, 85% to 90% of people are playing, how well are you selling Cray or Sloan or Kate
or Haley
or
Kane?
Yeah, or like, is it even worth even having that there at that point? And the same thing with like everybody, like the Protectorate, same deal. I don't know anybody who plays anything, but what is it, like the Priestess of the Flame? Is she popular?
I have no clue. I very rarely see Menoth play.
But like you have, I guess my issue is, in everything you click, you got over a dozen choices to choose from, and it seems like no matter what you go on, only 3 of them are worth even looking at, no matter what you do, because Nemo or Striker, that's what basically everybody plays. And if I would imagine if you try to make something work with Sloan or somebody, people might look at you like you have 3 heads. Like, why aren't you playing Nemo?
Usually people do that, but I've also discovered that does sometimes play to people's benefit. Like, there was a guy who played the Winter Guard during Mark 1. It was the worst unit you can play. All he had was Scortia and Winter Guards, and the one jack that was made its fluff was it was made to support the Winter Guard. And everyone would always look at him going, this guy's so pathetic, he's playing Winter Guard, this is going to be easy. And he never lost a game because people went, wait a minute, what do the Winter Guard do? And so that they never knew how to counteract them because they never faced Winter Guard before. So they just would get mowed down by the fact that they have no idea what in their army counteracts Winter Guard.
Right, but I mean, if somebody did a quick 5-minute research before playing him, they could probably crush him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that, while that's cool, it's also, I feel, a flaw because I'm looking at, who am I looking at now? I don't even know. Retribution. And I'm in their Warcaster section, and I couldn't tell you who plays what, but it looks like a different choice for everything. And maybe people only play 2 of the, and it's not like, hey, 4 or 5 dudes. Like, it's like a dozen per section you click. Warcasters, Warjacks, units, solos, and all that stuff. Except for Colossals and Badlanders, there's 1 of each in those. But it's just like,
for now.
Yeah, for now. But it just makes you look at it and, like, what's a new player to do? Especially when anybody's going, why aren't you running new Nemo? Or why aren't you running Nemo or Striker? Why are you running this dude? Or why are you running that dude? You know? Like, that always struck
it
wrong.
It really, in the defense of this, I also have noted sometimes that it also depends on your listing.
Yeah.
I've found out, like, there was one time where I had these dudes, and it was like, you have Stormblades, why are you running Nemo, not Striker? Like, sometimes that also tends to be a more popular issue, is you go, why aren't you, it's like, you pick a caster, and then you just end up picking the units that don't go well with that caster. And then you get the, like you said, why aren't you playing these dudes?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems odd to me as an outsider looking in. Because I like the look and overall feel of how War Machine does things. It's one of those games that I never really felt the urge to take that next step for. And I think part of that issue is I look at stuff and I go, there's so many choices, how do you know what you're doing? And I've talked to people who play War Machine and I go, so why do you play, I think it was Nemo. And he said, well, because he's the strongest. You know, it's like, well,
yeah.
but isn't, and the other thing that makes sense to me is like, why is it's caster kill and like, your caster, why does a caster have to be this juggernaut of unstoppable force? You know what I mean? Like, it seems like this whole strategy is kill the caster, you want, like, save the cheerleader, save the world. Kill the caster, win the game. And it's just like, so
that front, I think, is more to help with its uniqueness in its game, so it doesn't feel like it's just 40k in a different universe.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it feels different enough. The other thing I think is interesting, but I don't know too much about it, is the fact that you can play Warma Hordes. Yep. And which is cool, but at the same time, you're mixing fleshy bits with metal bits. It feels weird to me. Like,
sadly, whenever I play against the Hordes army, I get mowed down.
That's my issue. Like, is that a whole different balancing issue with Hordes?
Nope. Hordes is balanced to play against War Machine. Like, when they made Hordes, they made it and designed it with the intent of having it be playable against War Machine.
Okay, because there was one thing I sat down and watched, which was like a new players looking at stuff as a new player for War Machine and Hordes. And when they were describing how the caster works in both situations, it was like polar opposites, and the way they were describing it made it sound like they just didn't gel well. But they gel well?
The system is designed to be unique, but unique in a point where, like, a good example was someone was showing someone Hordes, and I literally just had to sit there for like a minute, and I was able to figure out the only difference. In a matter of 1 to 2 rounds, I figured out how the casters work differently, and after that, you knew basically everything you needed to know.
Gotcha. But Yeah, like I said, for me, it feels like it suffers from the Magic the Gathering syndrome of the metagame has 3 different, not just 3, because this is very different from Magic. You're not mixing colors and whatnot. But Crix, there's 2 to 3 armies and maybe a 4th oddball army that kind of does well just because of its oddity. And you repeat process with every faction. And every time I've seen people play, even with hordes with different factions, everything looks the same because everything looks the same, but that guy's Signar army is built very similarly to that guy's Signar army, which is in turn built very similarly to that guy's Signar army. It's kind of like red-green aggro, built very similar to this guy's red-green aggro, built very similar, that blue-white control is very similar to this guy's blue-white control. It might be a 1 or 2 card or unit difference, but I've never really seen something that makes you go, wow, variety. You know what I mean? Aside from the different factions. And you see that in other games. I never understood Flames of War, but even there you kind of saw it. Although, if you play Flames of War, I should say, good God, how do you stand painting stuff that small?
Yeah. But I will never understand how people do that.
And I've seen people paint it pretty good, where they got little details on the uniform. Dude,
if some unit marking.
I'm you serious? Are you serious right now? I would just spray everything in that drab green or brown and be done with it. Look at it. Who cares? Because that's so small for me. But if you play that,
what if someone picked it up and looked at it?
And they would go, "You took no effort." I'd be like, "You're absolutely correct. It's too tiny." But even I don't know.
Ooh, I like the new Asphyxius model.
But
the 2010 edition.
Ooh, that's a good year. It's like wine, apparently. You got the 2010 edition? Man, that's a good year. But that's cool. I always wondered about the War Machine and Hordes because, like I said, the only way I've seen it described, it made it sound like they were 2 drastically different things that somehow meshed together.
The only thing that's different really is how casters work and how beasts work, and it's just like the beasts have one Jacks have one thing they can do, beasts have their own one thing they can do. The casters in 40k get
War
magic
Machine.
One way. War Machine gets magic one way, and Hordes gets their magic a different way. But other than that, they're practically they run very much the same way, to the point where you can jump between the two and not be like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Gotcha. So, Fearless Gamers, roll call sound off now. I know some of you out there play War Machine. Let's hear it. What do you play? Do you play War Hordes? Which one? War Machine or Hordes? And faction, sound off, because I guarantee you that we got players who listen. I'm curious.
Oh yeah.
I'm curious to see what they play, and if they play multiple, what's your favorite? You gotta pick your favorite baby, your favorite child. I don't care. Pick your favorite child, and then maybe if you want to give a little blurb about it, give a little blurb. If you don't play Nemo or Striker and you play Signar, stand proud. Let us know who you play with. With that, and there was one other thing I wanted to close with. Warhammer Fantasy. Does anybody even play it anymore? I remember a time when that was like, dude, if you're a real war gamer, you gotta play Fantasy. All right, because
it's coming back at Grimm.
Is it? Because
I'm seeing it more and more popping up, but I think everyone's just getting back into it in hopes that 9th edition is good.
Wow, that's the 9th already.
Yeah.
Oh wow. But yeah, I remember there was a time when it was like anybody's like, you don't play anything but Fantasy, all right? Because
you don't play 40k, you play Fantasy.
I mean, and I like the Tomb Kings and I like the Wood Elves, but the Tomb Kings, they changed pretty drastically in a sense that it still feels Tomb King-y, but I like the old feel better. Like they used to not have to ever roll for magic. It just
Vampire Count, they were my army.
And I've always liked the Wood Elves because the Wood Elves were the 40k army of Fantasy. Move in any direction and shoot in any direction. Take that, Fantasy.
And so, with that, we will be taking it to a close. And thank you all for listening.
Yes.
And until next time, Fearless Gamers, this is Matt the Vet.
The Wild Card.
Saying take care.
Peace.